Stay in your place, waitress, Theodore Vailly snarled, his voice cutting through the elegant air of l'éclat des vagues, dismissing Zélie Endour's worth with icy disdain. The haughty owner scoffed as she dared to approach his silent daughter, Lyson, a 12-year-old shrouded in fear and doubt. Yet Zélie, undaunted, saw something in Lyson's trembling gaze, a spark no one else noticed. Defying Theodore's contempt, she set out to unleash a hidden talent that could shake the elite dining world. As Margot Delcour's sharp eyes watched, a battle of pride and heart unfolded, threatening to reshape a tycoon's legacy. Can a mere waitress challenge a magnate's iron will? Dive into this saga of defiance and discovery, where secrets bloom in unexpected places. What mysteries lie in Lyson's silence? Share your guesses, like, and subscribe to our channel for more tales that captivate the soul. Zélie Endour weaved through the crowded dining room of l'éclat des vagues, her tray of wine glasses trembling slightly as she dodged a guest's careless gesture. The chandelier light glinted off her dark skin, her black uniform crisp despite the long shift. She paused at a table, her eyes catching the delicate swirl of a pastry on a nearby dessert cart, a fleeting reminder of her days as a pastry chef. Her fingers itched to create, but she pushed the thought down, forcing a smile as she poured wine. "Zélie, move it!" Bastien Roche's voice hissed from behind, his pale face flushed with stress. The manager adjusted his tie, his blue eyes darting toward a corner table. "Margot Delcour's here, table 3. One mistake, and we're done." Zélie's stomach lurched. Margot Delcour, the critic whose reviews could shutter a restaurant, was a specter over the night. "Got it," she said, steadying her tray. She couldn't afford to falter, not with hospital debts still looming, a shadow from her mother's illness. She glided toward table 12, where Lysson Vailly sat alone, her 12-year-old frame hunched over a barely touched salad. The girl's pale hands fidgeted, her hazel eyes downcast. Zélie set a glass down, but her tray tilted, and a spoon slipped, clattering onto the polished floor. Lyson gasped, her hands flying to her face, her body curling inward as if the sound were a physical blow. Zélie froze, heat flooding her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she said, kneeling to grab the spoon, her voice low. A shadow loomed. "What is this incompetence?" Theodore Vailly's voice thundered, his angular face twisted in fury. The restaurant's owner stood, his tailored suit impeccable, with Margot Delcour at his side, her sharp eyes narrowing behind her notepad. "You're a disgrace, Zélie. Can't you handle a simple task?" The dining room fell silent, forks pausing, eyes turning. Zélie's throat tightened, but she stood, clutching the spoon, her voice steady. "It was an accident, Monsieur Vailly. I'll fix it." "An accident?" Theodore sneered, his pale skin flushing. "You've terrified my daughter." He gestured to Lyson, who trembled, her eyes wide with panic. "You're a walking liability. Get out of my sight." Zélie's fists clenched, her pulse racing, but she bit back a retort. "It won't happen again," she said, her tone clipped. Margot's pen scratched, her expression unreadable, each stroke a weight on Zélie's shoulders. The critic's presence was a guillotine, and Zélie felt the blade hovering. Bastien stepped forward, his voice low. "Zélie, back to work. Table 6 needs water." He shot her a look, half warning, half pity. Zélie nodded, turning away, but not before catching Lyson's gaze. The girl's eyes, though frightened, held a flicker of something else, curiosity perhaps, or a quiet plea. Zélie's chest tightened. She knew that look, the weight of being unseen. She moved to table 6, pouring water with practiced ease, but her mind churned. Theodore's words stung, echoing the creditors who called her nothing, the nights she'd spent fighting to keep her head above water. She wasn't just a waitress. She'd been a pastry chef, crafting art from sugar and cream until life stole it away. She wouldn't let Theodore steal her dignity, too. As she passed Lyson's table again, she slowed, noticing the girl's fingers tracing a pattern on a napkin. Squinting, Zaylee saw it wasn't random. It was a flower, drawn with careful, deliberate lines. "Hey," she said softly, pausing. Lyson flinched, covering the napkin. "That's beautiful. Do you draw a lot?" Lyson's lips parted, but no sound came. Her pale cheeks flushed, and she looked away. Zaylee's heart sank. She'd seen that silence before, in herself, when the world felt too heavy. Before she could try again, Theodore's voice rang out. "Zaylee, stop dawdling and serve!" She straightened, forcing a smile for Lyson. "Keep drawing, okay?" The girl didn't respond, but her fingers tightened on the napkin. Zaylee moved on, the tray heavy in her hands, but her resolve heavier. Lyson wasn't just Theodore's daughter. She was a kid struggling, and Zaylee couldn't shake the urge to help. Margot's gaze followed her pen still moving, a silent judge. Zaylee didn't know what the critics saw, but she knew one thing. She wasn't invisible, and neither was Lyson. Tonight was just the start. Zaylee Nadur slipped into the dimly lit service area of L'Éclat des Vagues, her waitress apron still tied as she spotted Lyson Veilly hunched over a small table. The 12-year-old's pale fingers fumbled with a piping bag, smearing cream onto a discarded pastry from the dessert cart. The restaurant's dining room buzzed faintly beyond the door, but here, after hours, it was just them. Zaylee approached quietly, her dark skin catching the faint glow of a wall sconce. "Hey, Lyson, what's that you're making?" Lyson flinched, her hazel eyes wide, but she didn't hide the pastry. "Just trying something," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The cream formed a lopsided shape, vaguely floral. Zaylee knelt beside her, smiling. "Looks like a flower. Want help?" She reached for a spare piping bag, demonstrating a smooth swirl. "Like this. You've got a good start." Lyson's shoulders relaxed, her small hands mimicking Zaylee's motion, creating a rough but recognizable petal. "Is it okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "More than okay," Zaylee said, her tone warm. "You've got a knack for this." She handed Lyson a bowl of berries. "Add some color. Make it yours." The door slammed open, and Theodore Veilly's voice cut through. "What is this nonsense?" His tailored jacket was unbuttoned, his pale face twisted with fury. "Zaylee, you're a waitress, not a teacher. And Lyson, what are you doing here after hours?" Lyson's piping bag slipped, cream splattering the table. She shrank back, her pale cheeks flushing. Zaylee stood, her fists clenching. "She's creating, Monsieur Veilly. Something you might appreciate if you looked." "Creating," Theodore scoffed, stepping closer. "She's a child making a mess, and you're encouraging her. Get her out of here before she ruins something." Zaylee's jaw tightened. "She's not ruining anything. She's got talent." She grabbed a fresh plate, slid Lyson's pastry onto it, and added a quick dusting of sugar. "Let's see what the guests think." Ignoring Theodore's glare, she handed the plate to a lingering waiter. "Table 7's still here. Take this out." "You're out of line," Theodore hissed, his voice low. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," Zaylee said, meeting his eyes. "But I'm betting on her." She nodded to Lyson, who clutched the table, her small frame trembling, but her eyes fixed on the waiter. The dining room erupted in murmurs. A guest's voice carried through the door. "This is delightful. Who made this little flower?" The waiter pointed toward the service area, and applause followed. Zaylee nudged Lyson. "Wave. They're cheering for you." Lyson hesitated, then gave a shy wave through the cracked door, her pale hand shaking. The guests clapped louder, their voices warm. Margot Delcourt, still at her corner table, set down her wine glass, her sharp gaze locking onto the scene. Her pen moved swiftly across her notepad. Theodore's face darkened. "You're turning my restaurant into a spectacle," he snapped, grabbing Zaylee's arm. "This stops now." Zaylee pulled free, her voice steady. "It's not a spectacle. It's your daughter's gift. You'd see it if you weren't so busy shutting her down." She glanced at Lyson, whose eyes shone with a mix of fear and pride. Bastien Roche appeared, his tie askew. "Monsieur Veli, Table 7's asking to meet the pastry artist. They're calling it the night's highlight." He paused, eyeing Zaylee. "Margot wants a taste." "Ridiculous," Theodore muttered, but his tone wavered. He looked at Lyson, who stood straighter, still clutching the piping bag. "Fine, let her have her moment, then she's done." Zaylee knelt beside Lyson. "You're a star. Want to make another for Margot?" Lyson nodded, her smile tentative but real. Zaylee handed her a fresh pastry, guiding her to pipe another flower. Margot's voice echoed from the dining room. "Bring it here. I'm curious." The waiter returned with a new plate, and Margot took a bite, her face unreadable. "Charming," she said, her eyes flicking to Lyson. "I expect more of this originality." She nodded to Zaylee, her pen still moving. Theodore's voice was ice. "Zaylee, keep my daughter out of your games. One more stunt, and you're fired." He stormed out, leaving a heavy silence. Bastien lingered, whispering, "That was risky. Margot's hooked, but Theodore's furious." "Let him be," Zaylee said, her jaw tight. She turned to Lyson, who was piping a new pedal, her hands steadier. "You were amazing. Want to try a star next?" Lyson's face lit up. "Yes," Zaylee smiled, her heart lifting. Lyson's talent was a spark, and she'd fan it into a flame, no matter how hard Theodore fought. Margot's interest was a chance, and Zaylee wasn't backing down. Zaylee Nadur balanced a tray of water glasses, weaving through the bustling dining room of L'Éclat des Vagues, as guests chattered over clinking silverware. Her dark hands steadied the tray, her waitress uniform crisp despite the frantic pace. She caught Lyson Veli's eye at a corner table, the 12-year-old sketching flowers on a napkin, her pale face tense. Zaylee flashed a quick smile, but her focus snapped to Bastien Roche, who barreled toward her, his tie askew. "Zaylee! Crisis!" Bastien's voice was low, urgent. "Margot Delcourt just posted. She's judging us tonight on a unique dessert. Chef Laurent's sick, and we're screwed without something special." Zaylee's pulse spiked. "What about the dessert menu?" "Too basic for Margot," Bastien said, wiping sweat from his pale brow. "You've got pastry skills, right? Can you pull something off?" Zaylee hesitated, glancing at Lyson's napkin. "I've got an idea, but it's not mine. It's hers." She nodded toward Lyson, who froze, her pencil hovering. Bastien's eyes widened. "Lyson, Theodore will flip." "He'll have to deal," Zaylee said, her voice firm. She approached Lyson, kneeling beside her. "Your flower sketches. They'd make an amazing dessert. Want to try it for Margot?" Lyson's lips parted, her hazel eyes flickering with fear. "Me? But I'm not good enough." "You're better than good," Zaylee said, squeezing her small hand. "Let's make it together." Lyson nodded, her pale cheeks flushing with nervous excitement. The dining room doors swung open, and Theodore Veilly stormed in, his tailored suit rumpled. "What's this about a dessert?" His gaze landed on Lyson, and his face darkened. "Zaylee, I told you to keep her out of trouble. She's no chef." "She's got vision," Zaylee shot back, standing. "Her flower design could save your restaurant. Margot wants unique. License it." Theodore laughed, sharp and cold. "A 12-year-old saving my restaurant? You're insane." He pointed at Lyson. "Go to my office, now." Lyson's napkin crumpled in her hands, her small frame trembling. Zaylee's jaw clenched. You're wrong about her, Monsieur Veli. Let her show you. Show me what? Theodore snapped. That she can scribble? I'm not risking Margot's review on a child's doodles. Bastien stepped in, his voice cautious. Sir, the guests loved Lyson's pastry last night. Zélie's onto something. It could work. Theodore's eyes narrowed, but a waiter rushed over, breathless. Monsieur Veli, Margot is complaining about the dessert delay. She's getting testy. Zélie seized the moment. Give us 1 hour. Lyson and I will have something ready. She looked at Lyson, who clutched her napkin, her small hands shaking but determined. Right? I can try, Lyson whispered, her voice quivering. Theodore's face twisted with frustration. 1 hour. If this flops, Zélie, you're out. He stormed off, his footsteps echoing. Zélie led Lyson to the service area, grabbing a tray of cream and berries. Let's make your flour real, she said, her tone steady. What's it saying? Lyson paused, her voice soft. It's hopeful, like when I'm not afraid. Then let's make it bloom, Zélie said, guiding Lyson's hands to pipe cream. The girl's movements were clumsy but focused, crafting a simple flower on a cupcake. Zélie added a berry senti. Her past as a pastry chef steadied her. Bastien peeked in, his eyes wide. That's stunning. I'll sneak it onto the test menu. He handed the cupcake to a waiter, who carried it to a nearby table. Moments later, applause rippled through the dining room. A guest's voice rang out. This is genius! Who's behind it? Zélie nudged Lyson. That's you. Lyson's face lit up, her fear melting into pride. Theodore returned, his expression thunderous. You served that without my approval? He glared at Zélie. You're defying me in my own restaurant. It worked, Zélie said, unflinching. The guests love it. Margot will too. Theodore's voice dropped, icy. If Margot hates this, you're done. He turned to Lyson. And you, stop pretending you're something you're not. Lyson's lip trembled, but she held her napkin tight. Margot's voice cut through from the dining room. I want that dessert now, and the creator. Her heels clicked closer, her notepad in hand. Zélie squeezed Lyson's shoulder. That's your moment. Lyson nodded, her small frame straighter, ready to step into the light. Zélie followed, her heart pounding. They weren't just serving a dessert. They were fighting for Lyson's place, and Zélie was all in. Zélie Nadour's hands steadied Lyson Viley's as they piped cream onto a pastry in the cramped service area of L'Éclat des Vagues. The 12-year-old's fingers trembled, crafting a delicate dianthus flower under Zélie's guidance, her pale face glowing with focus. The faint hum of the dining room filtered through the door, but here, after hours, it was just them and the sweet scent of sugar. You're nailing it, Zélie said, her voice warm, her dark skin catching the soft light. Lyson's hazel eyes flickered with pride. Can we make it for Margot tomorrow? She whispered, her voice small but eager. Absolutely, Zélie said, adding a berry to the flower's center. Before she could say more, the door slammed open, and Theodore Veilly's voice thundered. What is this foolishness? His tailored jacket hung loose, his pale face twisted with rage. Zélie, you're a waitress, not my daughter's keeper. Lyson, you're wasting time. Lyson's piping bag slipped, cream smearing the pastry. She shrank back, her pale cheeks flushing. Zélie stood, her fists clenching. She's not wasting time, Monsieur Veilly. She's creating something beautiful. You'd see it if you stopped yelling. Beautiful, Theodore scoffed, stepping closer. She's a child, and you're filling her head with nonsense. He reached for the pastry tray, but his hand knocked over a dusty tin box on a shelf, sending it crashing to the floor. A worn pastry mold rolled out, engraved with Celestine. Theodore froze, his pale hands trembling, his eyes locked on the mold. Zélie's gaze darted to the mold, then to him. What's that? She asked, her tone cautious. Nothing, Theodore snapped, snatching it up, his voice cracking. Get back to your duties, Zelie. And Lyson, go to my office. He clutched the mold, his knuckles white. Lyson's lip quivered, but Zelie knelt beside her, her voice steady. Hey, we're not done. Let's fix this flower. She guided Lyson's hands to smooth the cream, ignoring Theodore's glare. You're stronger than his anger. Lyson nodded, her small hands moving with new resolve, reshaping the pastry. Zélie's mind raced. The mold had shaken Theodore, and she needed answers. She glanced at Bastien Roche, who had slipped in, his tie askew, his blue eyes flicking to Theodore's tense frame. Spill it, Zélie whispered to Bastien, keeping her voice low. What's with the mold? Bastien leaned in, his voice hushed. It's his sister's, Celestine. She was a pastry chef, brilliant, but their family shunned her for it. She left years ago, and Theodore blames himself. He's scared Lyson's heading the same way. Zélie's chest tightened. He's punishing her for his guilt. She turned to Lyson, who had finished the pastry, its flour now vibrant. You're a genius, Zélie said, squeezing her shoulder. Let's show this to a guest. Bastien hesitated, then nodded. I'll get it plated. He handed the pastry to a junior waiter, who carried it to a lingering table. Moments later, applause echoed from the dining room. A guest's voice rang out. This is stunning! Who made it? Zélie nudged Lyson. That's you! Lyson's face lit up, her fear melting into pride. Theodore's expression darkened. You sent that out without my permission? He glared at Zélie, his voice low. You're turning my restaurant into a circus. It's working, Zélie said, unflinching. Your guests love it. Margot will too. She nodded toward the dining room, where Margot Delcour's sharp gaze followed the commotion, her pen moving across her notepad. Theodore's voice was ice. If Margot rejects this, you're finished. He turned to Lyson, his tone softer but strained. And you, stop playing at things you don't understand. He clutched the mold, storming out. Margot's voice cut through from the dining room. I want that pastry for the gala tomorrow, and the creator. Her heels clicked closer, her notepad in hand. Bastien whispered, She's serious. This is big. Zélie squeezed Lyson's shoulder. That's your moment. Lyson nodded, her small frame straighter, her eyes bright with determination. Zélie followed, her heart pounding. The gala was their chance to prove Lyson's worth, and she'd fight for it, no matter how deep Theodore's pain ran. Zélie Nadour steadied Lyson Vialli's trembling hands as they stepped into the dazzling dining room of L'Éclat des Vagues, the clink of crystal glasses and murmurs of gala guests filling the air. The 12-year-old clutched a plated pastry, its dianthus design a vibrant swirl of cream and berries. Margot Delcour's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Here they are, the artists behind tonight's triumph. The crowd turned, their applause swelling. Lyson's pale face flushed, her small frame shrinking under the attention. Zélie squeezed her shoulder, her dark skin catching the chandelier's glow. You've got this, she whispered. Show them your heart. Lyson nodded, her hazel eyes wide but resolute, and placed the pastry on Margot's table. The critic inspected it, her pen hovering. Striking, she said, her tone crisp. She took a bite, her face unreadable, then set her fork down. The room held its breath. Extraordinary, Margot declared, her voice carrying. This is the work of a visionary. Who is this young talent? Lyson Vialli, the girl whispered, her voice quaking. Zélie stepped closer, ready to bolster her, her waitress uniform a stark contrast to the gala's glamour. Margot stood, addressing the crowd. Lyson Vialli, at 12, has crafted a dessert that rivals the finest I've tasted. Brava! The applause thundered, guests rising to their feet. Lyson's lip trembled, but a smile broke through, her small hands clutching Zélie's. Theodore Vailly, near the bar, watched with a clenched jaw, his tailored suit seeming to choke him. He pushed through the crowd, his pale face flushed. "Enough," he barked, his voice slicing through the cheers. "This is ridiculous. She's a child, not a chef. Zélie's behind this, a stunt to mock me." Gasps rippled through the guests. Zélie's fists tightened, her voice cutting back. "Mock you? I'm lifting your daughter up, something you've never tried." She faced him, unflinching. "Lyson's gift is real. You're just too stubborn to see it." Theodore's eyes blazed. "You're a waitress, Zélie, a nobody meddling in my family. You think you know better than I do." "I know she's terrified of you," Zélie shot back, her words sharp. "I know she's got talent you won't acknowledge. And I know I've been where she is, written off, called worthless. I was a pastry chef, trained to create beauty, until life tore it away. I won't let you tear Lyson's chance apart." The crowd murmured, stunned. Margot's pen paused, her sharp gaze darting between Zélie and Theodore. Lyson's voice, small but clear, broke the silence. "Papa, I made the dianthus. Me. Zélie helped, but it's mine." Theodore froze, his pale hands trembling. "Listen, you don't—" "I do," she interrupted, her voice shaking but firm. "I want to make people smile, like Zélie does. Why won't you let me?" Her eyes welled up, but she stood tall, clutching the empty plate. Bastien Roche edged forward, his voice low. "Sir, everyone's watching. Margot's watching. Don't do this." Theodore's gaze flicked to Margot, who raised an eyebrow, her expression unyielding. "Monsieur Vailly," she said, "your daughter has a rare talent. Denying it would be foolish. I'd like to hear more from Zélie. Her story compels me." Zélie took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "I learned to bake because it was my way to fight back, to prove I wasn't invisible. Every pastry was a stand against a world that tried to break me. Lyson's doing the same. She's pouring her soul into these designs, and it's touching people." She gestured to the crowd, some dabbing tears, others nodding. "You can't stop that, Monsieur Vailly. Not without losing her." Theodore's face contorted. Anger, guilt, something deeper. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The crowd's silence pressed against him, heavy and expectant. Margot tapped her pen. "Well, monsieur, will you let your daughter rise or drag her down?" Lison stepped closer to Zélie, her small hand slipping into hers. "Papa, please," she whispered. "I want this." Theodore's shoulders sagged, his voice barely audible. "This isn't over, Zélie." He turned, pushing through the crowd, his footsteps heavy. The guests parted, their whispers resuming, but the air crackled with tension. Zélie knelt beside Lison, brushing a tear from her cheek. "You were incredible. You stood up to him. I'm so proud." Lyson's smile was fragile but real. Zélie stood, catching Margot's eye. The critic gave a slight nod, her pen moving again. They'd won this round, but Zélie knew the fight wasn't over. Lyson's courage had cracked Theodore's armor, and she was ready to push harder. Zélie Endure hunched over a cluttered table in the service area of L'Éclat des Vagues, her eyes straining as she scanned a stack of papers under a flickering bulb. The Spanish contract's dense legal terms blurred, but her dark fingers traced each line, scribbling corrections with fierce focus. Lison Vailly sat nearby, her 12-year-old hand sketching a lily on a napkin, her pale face etched with worry. "Zélie, is it going to be okay?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "It will be," Zélie said, forcing a smile, her voice steady despite exhaustion. "Keep drawing. It's keeping me grounded." The clock read midnight. Hours left to save a deal critical for Margot's gala. Bastien Roche burst in, his tie loosened, his pale face slick with sweat. "Zélie, any luck?" The supplier's pulling out by dawn if this contract's not fixed. Margot's review depends on those ingredients. Zaylee's stomach nodded. The translation's a disaster. Wrong clauses, bad terms. I'm fixing it. She'd learned Spanish years ago, studying pastry recipes, but this was a beast of legalese. Her hands cramped, but she pressed on. Bastian paced. Theodore's in his office, losing it. He thinks you're not up to this. Let him, Zaylee snapped, her eyes not leaving the paper. I've got it. She glanced at Lyson, whose pencil moved with quiet focus. Show me your lily. Lyson slid the napkin forward, a detailed flower in soft strokes. It's for the gala, she said, her voice small. If we make it. We will, Zaylee said, squeezing her shoulder. The door slammed open, and Theodore Bailey stormed in, his tailored suit rumpled, his pale face flushed. What's this madness? He barked, snatching the contract from Zaylee. You're a waitress, not a translator. You're gambling with my restaurant. Zaylee stood, yanking the papers back, her voice sharp. Your restaurant was sinking until Lyson and I stepped up. I'm saving your deal, so back off. Her dark eyes blazed, unyielding. Theodore's jaw clenched. You're nobody to defy me. If this fails, you're gone. Then let me work, Zaylee shot back. She softened, turning to Lyson. Your lily's beautiful. Keep going. Lyson nodded, but a clatter interrupted. She'd knocked over a box of spare tools, and a tarnished pastry tray rolled out, engraved with Celestine. Theodore froze, his pale hands trembling, his eyes locked on it. Where did that come from? He muttered, his voice cracking. Zaylee glanced at Bastian, who mouthed, His sister. She turned to Theodore, cautious. Celestine's tray. Theodore's face crumpled, but he clutched the tray, his voice low. She was like Lyson, always sketching, dreaming. I told her it was pointless. Then she left, and He stopped, his eyes glistening. I failed her. Lyson slid off her chair, her small frame steady. I'm not her, Papa. I'm me. Zaylee sees me. Why can't you? She pointed to her napkin, her voice firm despite her shaking hands. Theodore's mouth opened, but no words came. Zaylee seized the moment. She's not Celestine, and you're not that man anymore. You can choose better now. Bastian cleared his throat. Zaylee, the contract. Time's ticking. Zaylee dove back into the pages, her pen racing. Hours blurred, her hands aching, but she fixed every term, every clause. By 3 a.m., she handed the revised contract to Bastian. Done. Send it. Bastian scanned it, his eyes wide. This is flawless. How? Grit, Zaylee said, exhaustion lacing her voice. She looked at Lyson, who was doodling another lily. And her. A waiter rushed in. Monsieur Roche, the supplier's signing! Bastian whooped, clapping Zaylee's shoulder. Theodore, still holding the tray, looked at Zaylee, his voice low. You saved us. No, Zaylee said, nodding to Lyson. She did. Her lilies kept me going. She turned to the girl. You're my hero. Lyson's face lit up, her pale cheeks flushing. Can we make them now? Soon, Zaylee said, smiling. She caught Theodore's eye, his expression softer, the tray in his hands. The contract was safe, but Zaylee knew the real fight was Lyson's worth, and she was ready to see it through. Zaylee Nadur smoothed Lyson Bailey's apron, her dark hands steady as the 12-year-old piped cream onto a lily-shaped pastry. The service area of L'Éclat des Vagues buzzed with pre-gala prep, the air thick with sugar and anticipation. Lyson's hazel eyes flickered with nerves, but her small hands moved with purpose, crafting a delicate flower. It's for Margot, she whispered, her pale face tense. You've got this, Zaylee said, her voice warm. She'll love it. Lyson's lips twitched into a shy smile. What if Papa's still mad? Before Zaylee could answer, Theodore Vailly's voice boomed from the doorway. "Everyone, stop!" His tailored suit was crisp, his pale face resolute. The staff froze, trays clattering. Zélie braced for another outburst, but Theodore's gaze softened on Lysen. "I've been wrong," he said, his voice low. "Lysen, Zélie, I owe you an apology." Lysen's piping bag faltered, cream smudging. Her small frame stiffened. Zélie's heart raced. This was unexpected, public. "Monsieur Vailly," she started, but he raised a hand. "I've treated you, Lysen, like a shadow, not a daughter," he said, his voice thick. "And Zélie, I've dismissed you when you've saved us. I was scared of failing you like I failed my sister. But you're stronger, Lysen, and I see it now." He turned to Zélie. "You showed me that." The staff exchanged glances, stunned. Bastien Roche, leaning against a wall, nodded slightly, his tie loose. Lysen's lip quivered. "You mean it, Papa?" Theodore knelt, his pale eyes glistening. "I do. I'm so proud of you." He pulled her into a hug, her small arms wrapping around him, her face buried in his shoulder. Zélie's throat tightened, but she kept steady, aware of watching eyes. "What's next?" she asked, her voice firm. Theodore stood, resolute. "Zélie, you're our pastry chef now. Lead the gala dessert with Lysen. Show them what you both can do." Lysen's smile lit up, her small hands clutching the piping bag with confidence. Zélie nodded, her resolve firm. "We're ready." Hours later, the dining room sparkled with gala glamour, guests in gowns sipping wine. Zélie and Lysen presented a towering pastry, lilies blooming in cream and fruit. Margot Delcourt stood, her voice sharp. "This is a masterpiece. Lysen Vailly, you're a prodigy. Zélie Nadour, you're a visionary." Applause erupted, cameras flashing. Lysen, gripping Zélie's hand, beamed, her pale face glowing. Theodore watched from the side, pride in his eyes. But whispers cut through. Some guests doubted a child's skill, others questioned Zélie's rise from waitress. Zélie took the microphone, her voice clear. "Lysen's talent speaks for itself. I'm her guide, not her shadow. We're a team." Lysen piped a final lily, her hands steady, proving her worth. Margot's gaze softened. "I'm funding a program for talents like Lysen, led by Zélie." The crowd cheered, but Theodore stepped forward. "This is my daughter's night. Celebrate her." Lysen bowed, radiant. Theodore joined her, whispering, "You're my star." He hugged her, and Zélie felt the weight of their victory. They'd built a bridge, and she was ready to cross it with them. Zélie Nadour guided a young girl's hands to pipe cream onto a cupcake, her dark fingers steady as children's laughter filled the service area of L'Éclat des Vagues. Lysen Vailly, 12 years old, darted between tables, showing a boy how to shape a berry flower, her pale face alight with joy. The charity event hummed, parents and patrons beaming, the air sweet with baking. Zélie's apron was dusted with flour, but her heart soared. "Nice swirl," Zélie told the girl, her voice warm. "You're a pro." The girl grinned, her cupcake wobbling but proud. Lysen caught Zélie's eye, waving, her hazel eyes sparkling. Theodore Vailly wove through the crowd, his usual suit swapped for a casual shirt, sleeves rolled up. "Zélie, Lysen," he called, his pale face relaxed. "The press wants you. They're raving about this." Zélie wiped her hands, nodding to Lysen. "Ready, Star?" Lysen beamed, her small frame bouncing, and they joined Theodore at a small stage. Margot Delcourt stood nearby, her sharp features softened, her notepad closed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Theodore began, his voice steady. "L'Éclat des Vagues is now a place of dreams. Thanks to Lysen, my daughter, and Zélie Nadour, We're launching a program to teach kids to bake, to create, to be seen. Cheers erupted, cameras flashing. Lyson gripped Zaylee's hand, her pale cheeks flushed with excitement. Zaylee leaned down, whispering, "You did this." Lyson's smile widened, her voice clear. "We did," a reporter called out. "Monsieur Veli, some say your new chef's untrained. Thoughts?" Theodore's jaw tightened, but Lyson jumped in, her voice firm. "Zaylee's the best. She taught me to be strong. She's family." The crowd murmured, touched, and Zaylee's throat caught, her dark eyes glistening. Bastien Roche clapped loudly, his tie loose. "That's right," he shouted, rallying the guests. "Zaylee's our heart, and Lyson's our fire." Applause swelled, silencing the reporter. A man in a sharp suit pushed forward, his voice cutting. "This is a publicity trick. A waitress and a kid leading a program. Laughable." Whispers rippled, some guests frowning. Zaylee took the microphone, her voice steady. "I fought to be here, for kids like Lyson who deserve a spotlight. Judge us by our work." She pointed to the children's cupcakes, displayed proudly. "This is the truth." Lyson offered the man a cupcake. "Try it," she said, her pale hand steady. "It's real." The crowd chuckled, tension easing. He took a bite, his scowl fading. "Not bad," he muttered, retreating. Margot stepped up, her voice crisp. "My 5-star review isn't just for the food, it's for this spirit. Zaylee, Lyson, you've transformed this place." She turned to Theodore. "You've chosen wisely." Theodore nodded, his pale eyes meeting Zaylee's. "I have." He spoke again, his voice thick. "I'm starting a fund for young artists, inspired by my sister, Celestine, for anyone who's felt invisible, like Lyson once did, like Zaylee was." The crowd roared, kids waving cupcakes. Zaylee's chest swelled, her gaze sweeping the room. She saw the girl she'd helped, beaming, and Lyson, laughing with another child. Bastien gave a nod, his usual stress gone. Zaylee stepped down, Lyson at her side. "We did it," Lyson said, her small hand in Zaylee's. "More kids tomorrow." "Every day," Zaylee said, her voice thick. Theodore joined them, his arm around Lyson, his hand on Zaylee's shoulder. The service area glowed around them, a new rhythm, hope, connection, purpose. They'd built a home where no one would be unseen again. Zaylee, Lyson, and Theodore's journey in L'Éclat des Vagues is a testament to courage, creativity, and redemption. Their story reminds us to champion the unseen and embrace second chances. What moved you most? Share your thoughts. Thank you for diving into this heartfelt tale with us, where every pastry tells a story of hope. We can't wait to bring you more. Until next time, keep inspiring and uplifting those around you. See you soon.